I am Kelly Kratz from Philadelphia. If we can start over here with Alan, just tell us who you are and where you're from.
Alan Grant, Austin, Texas.
All right, thanks. And Lindsay. Lindsay's on mute. Okay, there you go.
I'm Lindsay Struthers from Portland, Oregon.
All right, thanks. And Raphael?
Hi, I'm Rafael. I'm based in New Jersey, in Princeton.
All right, thank you. And Sarah?
Sarah Hopkins-Cherry, I'm in California.
All right, thank you. And Steve?
Steve Locker in Columbus, Ohio.
All right. So the gang is all here. All right, well, today what we're going to do, I like this. This is the third time I've done this week. But what we're going to do today is go through, I'm going to model the ELM Tree of Mastery principle. A lot of you have probably gotten a chance to go through the PowerPoint. You might have gotten a chance to watch the video of me doing this section. One of the things I do want to clarify that has been brought up, and we're going to try to get this fixed, is the trainer notes in the PowerPoint that I sent you are not up to speed. They're not accurate. And the reason for that is actually a good reason. I think I told you guys many times that this workshop has not even been launched yet. It's not going to be launched until July 1st of this year, and actually in a couple months. So it's actually still being revised. There's, even as soon as last week, there were a couple slides that we want to switch out and a couple things we're going to change in the slideshow. So the trainers across the country don't even have the completed slideshow yet, and neither do you. But you're going to be, as I said, you're going to be a step ahead of them because you're going to be more prepared in going through this PowerPoint than they are when they launch it on July 1st. So that's what is going on with the PowerPoint. As soon as the notes are up to speed, I will give them to you. I'll make sure you have them. But in the meanwhile, you know, the notes and kind of the details that I'm giving you today will help. And this afternoon, right after this call, I'm going to post the link so that you can watch either my Hangout from Tuesday, Ruben's Hangout from last night, or mine, or this one from today. So, that being said, any questions? Do you guys have any questions for me about the course or where things are headed? Where we're going, what we're doing? All good? All right. Awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to jump right in and just pretend you're my audience, and I'm going to model some of the things that I say and I do at a workshop to make this, you know, super interactive and get the audience involved. And then the last half hour, I should be able to get through this no problem in less than 20 minutes. And then the last half hour, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what stories you like to illustrate these points. How would you get an audience engaged with the ELM Tree of Mastery? What would you do? What are some ideas you've seen done well? What are some points that you thought would be really great to stress, or things that maybe you didn't connect with that I said that you thought, you know, that didn't come out well? It was funny because when I did this on Wednesday, I've done this so many times, but this is a new format for the workshop. So there's slides that have been taken out that were in the original workshop that we've used for many, many years. So I'm so used to like clicking and having the next slide come up, and I clicked and it didn't come up. And I was asking a question to the audience and it wasn't even what was on the slide. So we're all learning here together. But all right, so if you guys don't have any questions for me, I'm going to jump right in. Does that sound good? Thumbs up? All right, thanks. So you're going to be a group of youth coaches, multiple sports, multiple age levels. We'll go with that, and so just answer accordingly if I ask you a question. And just don't forget to unmute when you have something to say. I know this is a lot less realistic because it's kind of hard to get the conversation going on a Google Hangout, but we'll do the best we can. So this is where we stopped last week. The last slide was the tools to help reach the plus-minus ratio. I had the audience get into groups of 3, and each partner took a different tool. This is just a way to get their heads in the book a little bit, not only, you know, showing them the book, but actually showing them where the pages are and how to help. So I had them in sort of a jigsaw formation where one person would take buddy system, one person would take positive charting, the other person would take winner's circle. They would read the little paragraph about the tool, and then within their group, they would share how to use it with their team. So coming off of that, that really is the end of the emotional tank principle, and now we're going to be starting on principle number 2. So, folks, thank you very much for all of your ideas. I think that's fantastic, and I love to hear the examples from your own sport on how you would use some of these tools. There are 6 others in the book. I'm just going to give you the highlights today. There are many more tools that you can use, but I'd love you to just keep exploring them when you get home. Try some others that might work for you. All right, so just to review here, we've got 3 tools. The first one was all about connection, establishing connection on your team, because we all know that your team's not going to commit unless they feel that connection, and we do that through filling the emotional tank. The next principle that we're going to talk about right now is the principle that has to do with improvement. If you remember in the very beginning, we talked about the belief that kids can improve. And I found that really interesting. Dr. Carol Dweck is one of our National Advisory Board members, and I've seen her speak about 3 or 4 times now. And what I love about Dr. Dweck is that she's very particular in her wording. So I'm going to show you a video right now, a video clip that Dr. Dweck did for Positive Coaching Alliance to talk about the value of effort. And I want you to see afterwards, I'm just going to see what your reactions were. What stuck out for you? What did you really connect with? What resonated with you? So let me show you this video. All right, somebody holler if you can't see this. If you can't hear it. There we go.
We did a study of college athletes looking at whether they believed their coaches valued effort and practice or natural talent and outcomes. The more they believed their coaches valued effort and practice, the better they did that year and the more they improved. It is crucial for coaches to send that message. I value practice, I value effort, I value setting your goals in terms of practice and effort. Many coaches may think it's obvious. Effort and practice lead to greater skills and a winning record. But if they don't communicate that value to players, those players may be working in a completely different framework.
All right. All right, what stood out for you? What was one thing she said that you went, good point?
I think the one thing that stood out to me was if coaches are not communicating the value of work effort, then the student athletes are not necessarily picking up on that. And so the need to communicate how that is important to a coach stood out to me. I mean, obviously, as a coach, I've always communicated that effort is far more important than talent. But I think on a broader scale, to have coaches understand the value of that communication stood out to me.
Great, Steve. That did to me also, and I think especially the end part where she said some coaches think it's obvious. And the first time I saw this, I thought, well, isn't it obvious that I value practice? I'm here, aren't I? I'm putting together a great practice plan. I'm encouraging you guys to work hard. Isn't it obvious? But so that really stood out to me as well, that there is an intentional communication about what you value. Thanks, Steve, very much. Yeah. Someone else.
And also the way to get this effort from the athletes, isn't it? It's not by just gelling or that kind of coach, just pushing them hard. They think that that's a way to get it, and it probably for a moment, but it will finish at the end, and he will not get the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good point. Thank you, Raphael. One more. What stood out? Okay, what do you do in a workshop if you ask a question and nobody answers? Just asking. It happens.
Move forward.
What'd you say?
You
move forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Put the pressure on everybody else.
Yeah, some people just wait. If you wait long enough, they'll answer. They'll answer. Sometimes I say, help me out. You know, who saw something? What about the very beginning? How many, just phrase it a different way. So for you guys, I'm not going to put you through that, but sometimes you just wait. Just wait. Somebody will answer. Somebody will answer. Sometimes you have to say, maybe I didn't ask the right question. Maybe it wasn't phrased right, or maybe there wasn't anything that stood out enough. So I rephrase questions. Go ahead, Steve.
So I have a question regarding course content. We talk about effort and the value of effort. For me, the development of this mindset where effort is so valuable is something that strategically takes a long time to develop. It's like academically gaining the confidence to be successful in a history class or something. There's a very similar level of work ethic and confidence that combine to make that work to its fullest potential. Mm-hmm. Is there content involved that that PCA shares in their workshops that talk about the overall long-term development of a good work ethic athletically? Because it's not something that generally you just say, okay, we value effort more than talent. There's certainly a process where student athletes have to develop that understanding of what effort really means.
Sure, absolutely. And to answer, I'm going to answer your question in the short term, and then at the end, when we're done, I'm going to go back to it again. But to answer your question, we really encourage all coaches to not look at this as an overnight solution. The tools and the principles that we're giving you are not something that can just switch your team instantly. So I think part of it that we do talk about in terms of changing your mindset of valuing effort, we give you lots of tools specifically in this principle that can help you start to change the framework of your team, as Carol Dweck said, what you value. And it's something that over time, you are rewarding the effort, you're noticing the effort, which we're going to get to the next couple tools in a second. Your team starts, that just becomes normal for your team. And that type of work ethic will be built up over time. The other workshop we do is called Positive Motivation. And positive motivation has a lot to do with effort, motivation, accountability, progress, those type of things that we all work into, the catalysts and the nourishers on your team and how to develop that. So that's what we call that the deep dive workshop. It's not Double Goal Coach 1, it's not Double Goal Coach 2. Double Goal Coach 2 is how to do culture, practices, and games. Double Goal Coach 3 is the mental game, which there's a lot of that in there as well. So the fourth workshop that we offer for coaches is called Positive Motivation, and it dives deeper into how do we get this work ethic to improve. So okay. I don't know if that helps. I can go back to that later at the end. All right.
Thanks.
So after we've seen Carol Dweck, one of the things that stood out for me, and one of the things that I've heard Dr. Dweck actually change a little bit in her research, is this point right here. How do you get athletes to believe they can get better? What I found interesting was all the research that Dr. Dweck has done over the last 25 years. She talks about accountability, and she talks about keeping the kids on task and keeping them motivated. But one of the things that she said is so crucial is their coach's belief in them. So for me, I thought that's pretty exciting because they don't even have to do the skill correctly. They just have to know that I believe that they can do the skill correctly. And she studied this in many, many different situations, many different sports in different areas. But I started thinking about that. What do I do to show my players that I believe they can get better? What I'd like you to do right now is I want you to just turn to somebody next to you and I want you to tell them what's one thing that you do with your athletes to show them that you believe in them and you support them. This is individual for everybody. So take a minute, turn to your partner and share that. So everybody would turn. Thank you, Lindsay. Everybody would be sharing. All right. I like to do that as a sharing activity rather than out loud because usually if I asked the first question about Carol Dweck and you guys were pretty quiet. So I'm going to ask another question. I don't want it to be quiet again. Usually people are much more comfortable turning to a partner. The other thing is this is kind of a personal thing, something that you do well. This is what I do to really show my players I believe in them. So can I just have an example from one of you? What's something you do to show players that you really have belief that they're going to be able to get better? You can make up an example or give me one of your own. It's fine.
You can compare them to someone famous, like to a famous football player. If we're talking football, you can compare them to a famous football player and say, like, something you do kind of reminds me of something Jerry Rice does. And if you kind of keep working at it, maybe you can be as efficient, as Jerry Rice was. Not necessarily, saying he's going to be the next Jerry Rice, but you just compare him, in some skill that he does to someone famous, and that kind of, motivates him and inspires him.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And just recognizing that, wow, it reminds me of something he does. That's great. That's a great talent too. Thanks, Alan, for sharing that. What's something else you do?
I think a very simple and basic way to illustrate your belief is to just remind them of a simple accomplishment that they've made, where your first touch on the ball has really gotten so much better, and or your jump shot is really improved over the last couple of months. Just a simple reminder that they have shown that improvement in a particular skill.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that, Steve, because that is one of our tools that we're going to talk about. The first one is tell them what you just said. Tell them you value effort more than talent. There's no complicated formula. Talk about it. Talk about it often. Nice effort. I like the way you're hustling. Think about the things they're doing that require effort, not talent, and teach them to be great at those things. Number 2 is become a noticer. Again, like Steve said, just notice things all over the place. We say if you see something positive, say it. And then if you say something positive, you're going to start to see it. I have found simply, just even with the kids that I've coached, I started with the little guys this year, and if we're doing a drill and I want them to come over for a quick huddle before we switch on to the next drill, it's amazing to me if they start walking over slowly. All I have to do is say, hey, Jane, nice hustle, thank you, and I'll give a high five. When she comes over to me, I'll give a high five to the first 3 girls that come over to me. That's it. I only do it to the first 3. The next time I do a drill, they hustle over because they want a high five from coach. So it's something that I'm noticing their effort, I'm saying it out loud, and also attributing the success to effort. So in sports that involve shooting or a goal, that's the goal. We want them to shoot more goals. We want them to get it in the cage, get it in the net, whatever it is. But are you, as a coach, reinforcing good shot, good score, way to get the points, or are you saying love the follow through, way to beat your defender, way to post up, nice angle, way to lock your ankle? What are you attributing that success to? Hi, Terry, how are you? Glad you joined us. I think you're on mute still, but glad you got it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about these things. How would you put this into voice? Well, here's how. That was a great play, Joey. You've really been working hard in practice, and it shows. This is one of those things that as a parent in the 90s, there was a very big movement to positivity. Everything was positive. Everything was give your kids a trophy, tell them they're great. I have a 16-year-old right now who I used to tell, I don't care what she did, she was such a good colorer, she was so fast, she was so smart, and I filled her head up with all these positives all the time. What I didn't realize was what I was doing is I was encouraging her to have a fixed mindset, that she is smart and she is fast and she is strong and she's a good colorer or whatever it was. I reinforced that. Here's the problem, and this is something, again, Carol Dweck's research supports. I was telling her that she had all of these great skills with no effort of her own. Why is she a good colorer? Because she is, because she's a good colorer. However, if I really attributed the good coloring to how hard she was working to stay in those lines, or if I was really encouraging her speed, if she was running and I said she was fast, it was because she had been running outside a lot the day before and I saw her really pushing through when she was tired. So what are you attributing the success to? And that is something we call growth and fixed mindset that, again, is very, very interesting in Dr. Dweck's research as well. So principle number 2 is called the ELM tree of mastery. This has to do with improvement, bottom line performance. We want the best performance out of our athletes. This mastery approach has been shown in 20 years of research, and it's non-controversial. This mastery climate will help athletes to improve faster. So what is the mastery climate? What does this look like? There are 2 different types of coaches and 2 different types of coaching climates on a team. The scoreboard definition of success, which is the results of the game. Did you score more points than the other team? Are you faster than the other team? Comparing with others. I have an echo here. Somebody can echo. Comparing with others means that you're constantly looking at the team and measuring them to another team's success. Would you guys, myself in double. I'm not sure why. Can you guys hear that echo?
Yep.
Okay, is that better? Okay, it was Steve for some reason. All right, Steve, you have to unmute if you talk. So, scoreboard definition are comparing the results. Still doing it. I don't know why. All right, I just muted you, Steve, because I think for some reason your computer was giving feedback and echo. I'm not sure why. So, all right. I lost my train of thought. All right, so scoreboard definition is comparing to, the results. You're just worried about the results of the game. Who's faster, who's stronger, who scores more points. You're comparing your team to other teams. You go see another team. Steve, yeah, there you go. You see another team when my team walks on the field and they look at them and they say, oh, coach, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they beat us the last time. This is a problem. And you're making it very clear that it's not okay if they make mistakes. Can I have an example of something a coach would do to make it a pretty clear message to an athlete that it was not okay, that they just made a mistake? What do coaches do? Actually, let me ask you this. What do coaches look like after a player has made a mistake? I just made a mistake. I'm on the other side of the field. I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to turn around and look at you. I want you to just show me that it's not okay that I made a mistake. 1, 2, 3. You got the hands up. You got the scrunchy face. That was very clear. We learned in the last principle that drains my tank. It also sends a clear signal that it's not okay that I made a mistake. I had the opportunity as a freshman in high school to be pulled up on varsity, and it was my very first varsity game. I was a wreck. I'm only 5'9", but I've always been 5'9". So people look at me and say, wow, you played basketball? Yeah, I was a center, believe it or not, at 5'9", because in 9th grade I was tall. But when I got into that varsity game, I got a breakaway. One of the first plays of the game, I got this huge breakaway. This person, the other teammate, threw a Hail Mary pass down to me. I dribbled a couple times, put it over my left hand. I did this beautiful undefended layup and completely missed. Didn't even hit the rim at all. My coach looked at me and said, Kelly, you're out. I got 1 shot on varsity. He took me out. I didn't get in for 3 more games. Because, and he brought me out of the game, he sat me on the side and he said, a simple layup. You didn't even have defense on you. You can't get a simple layup. How do you expect to play varsity? Have a seat. Now, for me as a freshman, that was it. That was my chance. That was my chance to shine. It was a layup. It wasn't a buzzer beater. It wasn't the NCAA. It was 1 layup in 1 game. I got a message real clear that you do not make mistakes on his team. So next time I got out on that court, 2 games from then, and I sped down the court, and I was open for the ball, and somebody threw me a Hail Mary pass, and I caught it, and I took 2 dribbles. What did I do with it? Passed it off. There was no way I was going to try that again. And I have to say, through all my years of playing on that basketball team, I was playing scared. And I wasn't the best player I could be because I was afraid every time I made a mistake, you're out. He was a yeller. He was verbally aggressive. He won a lot of games, but he also broke a lot of hearts, and mine was one of them. I think I always say to myself, I could have been a better basketball player if I actually believed that I could have been a better basketball player. Something that stuck with me. So he was very scoreboard focused. The mastery definition of success is this, based on effort. So how many of you have gone into a game as a coach thinking we are going to just blow this team away? And you do. And you blow the team away, and you can honestly say your team didn't work very hard. How many of you can say that? Yeah, it's happened. Vice versa, you've probably had some games where the scoreboard at the end said that you lost. But on the speech after the game, your team played as hard as they ever did, and you were so proud of them. Everybody ever had that happen? Yes. So I want you to think about this. What are you rewarding? At the end of a game, regardless of the score, a mastery-focused coach will base their praise on the effort the team gave. Some people say, oh, well, you know what, if you win, it doesn't matter. They didn't really play well, but they still won. They got the W. I would be disappointed if my kids won a game by lack of effort. That's a scoreboard. That's a mastery-focused coach. How much effort did they give? Number 2, what are they learning? I've had a lot of players that have said to me, oh, coach, you know what, that in man-to-man defense, that's really tough, or that's hard to play. Or in football, I hear a lot of guys come out and tell their coaches, man, it's just tough defense, man. We got tough defense up against us. The coach has 2 choices. They can pump them up and say, come on, buddy, you can do it, that's it. That's filling their tanks, which we know works. But how about this? All right, what'd you learn? What'd you learn last time you were up against that guy? Did you see anything? Oh, yeah, I saw a fake to the left, and then he went to the right. Are you learning about the plays he's doing? Are you starting to try to predict what's going to happen? So as coaches, this is how you teach the players to learn from quote-unquote mistakes that they make rather than punish them for them. So this idea that mistakes are okay, we're not telling you to go around and tell all your kids, screw up, woo, that's what we want you to do. As much as you can, make as many mistakes as possible. No. What we're telling you is, how are you handling mistakes as a coach? How are you teaching your team to handle mistakes? And for us, a mistake is only a failure if it's not a learning opportunity. John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches that ever coached, he had a quote that I love. The team that makes the most mistakes wins. How's that possible? He really believed the team that made the most mistakes was the one that was going to win. He wanted a team of mistake makers. Why in the world would somebody like John Wooden want a team of mistake makers?
Because they are trying.
Yes, because they're trying. And if you're not afraid to make mistakes, what are you going to look like out there?
Well, I think you'll have high effort, and you'll be a risk taker. Which I think when you take risks, you learn a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Who doesn't want a team that's going to take risks? Calculated risks, smart risks, but yes, they're going to take risks. All right, so I'm going to show you a clip. Actually, before I get to that, sorry, forgot that was next. When I'm still on this screen, right, this is the one that had a couple other screens in the last workshop that I said I kept thinking it was going to be the next screen, and it's different. One of the things that I do want to point out, and this is new, Dr. Carol Dweck helped us formulate this mastery definition. Effort, learning, and mistakes are okay. We call it the ELM tree because the acronym ELM. One of the things that I want you to think about is this. We've all heard, if at first you don't succeed, what?
Try again.
Try again. Dr. Dweck said that's not enough. Empty effort is not enough. We don't want these kids to just be on the treadmill. Try. We want their effort to be purposeful. And we want them to have goals in their effort. So one of the things that I want you to think about when we get into the tools are not just, oh, go out there and try again. But as a coach, make sure that their try is coached. They have a purpose in mind in their effort. If they've done something the wrong way, teach them the right way, and then have them go back in and say, yeah, now keep your elbow in every time. Or, you know, try your left hand more. Or try that kick with your knees straight. Something that's going to be purposeful effort. So when we heard that, it was funny. This is just between you and I as trainers. When we heard her give this talk in April at the national staff meeting, Ruben and I are sitting there going, okay, now the acronym has to be PELP or PELM. So instead of the ELM tree, now we have the PELM tree. But I think it's an important thing to point out because sometimes effort, they just think, you know, I've had parents say, my kid tries so hard and they're just not getting in the games. My daughter actually came home the other day. She said, Mom, I tried so hard. I was cutting like crazy all over the field, but I wasn't getting the ball. And I wasn't at the game, so I went to her next game. You're darn right. She was cutting all over the field in the wrong spot. She wasn't cutting towards the goal. She was cutting all over the place in all the different directions, but she wasn't cutting in the right spot. And I thought that was such a great example. I said, Grace, when you're cutting, where are you cutting to? And she said, well, I'm cutting to get open. And I said, well, where's the goal? And she said, oh, yeah, I wasn't cutting towards the goal, Mom. And I said, well, maybe give that a shot. See if that helps. So that was purposeful effort. It gave her something else to think about. All right, in terms of mistakes, we have a couple things that we call mistake rituals. One of the things that we at PCA have loved and kind of clung on to is this idea of the flush. And we borrowed it from a collegiate basketball coach in Kenyatta, California. And he uses the flush with his college basketball players. And it's very simple. Right arm up, everybody. All right, on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to make the loudest toilet flushing sound you can do. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, the whole audience giggles. If you think that's funny, try it with a bunch of 8-year-old boys. They love it. When you flush a mistake, it's gone. It's out of there. It's out of your mind. A mistake ritual is a physical sign that triggers a mental reset so that they're ready for the most important play, which is
the next one.
The next play. Now, some have said, you know, the flush, that's kind of juvenile. I don't know if that's going to work. I was down in Tampa Bay, at the Tampa Bay Rays Stadium, and in the dugouts, they actually have a magnet toilet on the side of the dugouts. Those players in professional baseball come in, and if they make a mistake, they make an error, they strike out, they hit the toilet, and it makes a sound, and it flushes. And I've talked to Jake Odorizzi, I've talked to Kevin Clash, I've talked to people that have said, yeah, you know what, it's so simple, and it works. Flush it, man, get rid of it. It's gone. So let me show you an example. Claude Julien is the coach of the Boston Bruins, and he doesn't use the flush, but he uses something else that I think you might really enjoy. I'm going to screen share everybody. Hang in there for 1 second so you can see this. Okay. Yes, you just did. All right. There you go. Okay.
Mistakes are part of the game, and you will always have mistakes in games. I think as players, as coaches, we try and minimize those. But when they do happen in the game, the biggest thing to do is you don't have to necessarily correct them right away. There's a lot of times the player knows what he's done wrong. But if you are going to correct, it's important also to leave them with a positive message. And we tell a lot of our players, we use the term release and reload. In other words, you get back to the bench, you release the negative thoughts of your mistake, and you reload with positive thinking so that when you do go back on the ice, you're not dragging that thought of your last shift with you, but yet you're thinking about what you want to do moving forward and how well you want to play from there on in. So important to what I use the term release and reload in a game. It works for every level, whether it's the NHL or whether it's youth hockey. I think it's a great thing to have in your arsenal as far as being able to adapt to those kind of situations.
All right, so maybe you're not a flusher, but maybe something like release and reload would work for you. Julie Foudy is also on our national advisory board. She played for the U.S. women's soccer team for almost 20 years. And she said very simply, most girls' teams, they wear hair ties around their wrists. A lot of them have hair ties, ponytail holders all the time. She has them snap. Just snap out of it, whatever it is. I coach the little girls, and last year I started, Taylor Swift is their idol. And so we started the mistake ritual of Shake It Off. And one of the first days of practice, I played the song. They all got up there and they sung Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. And I talked about when you make a mistake, I want you to shake it off. So now, even if it's on the other side of the field and somebody misses a shot or their girl blows by them or they get fouled for a dangerous check or something, all I have to do is go like this and they shake it back to me. So I tell them, I shake to you, you shake to me, and it's gone. It's done. So that's something, whatever works for you. Do any of you in the audience have a mistake ritual that you find works for your players or maybe worked for you personally that you would like to share with us?
I was at a tournament and watching this coach from Reno, and every time his girls would make a turnover, instead of yelling at him, he'd say, "You better get it back." And he had this really deep voice, and it was like, wow, I want to get it back for him too.
I like that. But the "you better" part sounds a little threatening, but I like the part that he was motivating them to get back. The "you better or else" part might not be what I would encourage, but I like that. I like that idea. Got him motivated to go on to the next play and get it back again. Yeah. Anyone else have one?
So along the lines of the shake it off, the brush it off, where they just brush down their thighs, just to kind of brush it off into the dirt and onto the next.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a goalie in college, and her nickname was Bird because she was about 5'11", and she was a lacrosse goalie. And when she had pads on, she looked huge. And anytime anybody shot on her, she would take her stick and she would bang the side, each pole. She would hit every side, 3 sides, boom, boom, boom. And she said, I would beat myself up, like, oh, how could you miss that? And as soon as that last pole on the side of the goal was hit, she was like focused. But every time that was like her routine. She just had to hit it 3 times. She beat herself up for about 3 seconds, and then she got her head back in the game. So find something, maybe at a younger age, you want to teach a mistake ritual to your entire team. Maybe you want to have one, a flush, shake it off, brush it off, no sweat. Maybe something simple as just saying release and reload. Maybe it's something as simple as look up. There's one of our PCA trainers out in Southern California coaches high school basketball, and he has his basketball players write the words look up right on their sneakers so that when they put their head down, when they made a mistake, they just have to look up. Another one of our trainers also has coached at the collegiate lacrosse level, and she says her mistake rituals, they have to hold their stick up in the air, high. Because again, your first thought is to look down. If you're looking down, you can't see what play's coming up at you. So they hold their stick up in the air. I got it. I'm ready to play. So think about whatever works for you. The cool thing about this mastery approach is that the research backs it up that anxiety is going to go down, self-confidence is going to go up. Now, I don't know about you, but if I had a team of anxiety-free, self-confident players, man, there would be a lot of situations that would be unstoppable for us. Why? Well, let's think about this. What I'd like to do right now is borrow one of you. So let me have Alan come up to the front. Alan's a pretty big guy. I'm not so big of a guy. So Alan, come on up to the front. Alan, what sport do you play?
Football.
Football. Okay, so Alan, you're going to be like a defensive lineman, and I'm going to be an offensive player, and I'm going to try to get, so Alan's in the front of the room, I'm in the front of the room. I'm going to try to get past Alan and get to the other side of the room. All right, now, I'm little. I'm sure, Alan, I can't see how big you are, but I'm sure you're bigger than me. All right, you guys, let's take some wagers here. Let's take some bets. How many of you think that I have 100% chance of getting past Alan right now? Come on, let's hear it. Nobody. All right. What is the percentage chance that you think I have to actually get past Alan to the other? He's gonna be like full football stance. He's gonna try to block me. What percentage chance do you think I have of getting to the other side past him?
0.
0. Wow. Thanks, Lindsay. That makes sense. 0% chance. What
That was tough.
chance do you think Alan has of stopping me?
100.
100. Okay, so right now the odds are not in my favor.
No, 99.
Oh, thank you. He's not doing my moves. All right, now let me ask you this question. Ready to go, Alan?
I'm ready.
All right, so I'm going to get everybody ready. On your mark, get set. Wait, stop for a second. Stop. All right. What percentage chance do I have over how much effort I give? What percent?
1.
I have 100% over my effort. How much control does Alan have over my effort?
None.
0.
0.
Depends on how much you give him.
So look at those odds. I now have 100% control. Alan has no control over my effort. How much control does Alan have? I mean, how much control do I have over the fact that I have been studying Alan and his moves and the way he tackles? I've been watching his tapes. I've been seeing what he does. I know where his weaknesses are. How much control do I have over that, the learning and the preparation?
100.
100%. So now, let's think about this. If I focus on, can I get past Alan? You guys have all said there's 0 chance. There's like no way she's going to get past him. But if I want the odds in my favor and I focus on what I can control, my effort, I can put 100% effort into this. I know how much I've learned from this. And if I make a mistake, guess what? I'm going to keep going, keep going, keep going. The research has shown that if I focus on those things, I will eventually be more successful. Maybe I won't get past Alan this time, but the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And I have much more, that's what's going to motivate me to work hard. Thank you very much, Alan.
I give you 80 now.
What?
I give you 80 now.
There you go. Thank you. So, mastery giving players feeling of a control, they're going to work harder, they're going to stick to it longer. That's what we want. That's the motivation. That's how you get players to be more aggressive. But as coaches and players, sometimes we come out to a game and we think about all the things that we actually have no control over. Let's say we can name 5 things in any given sport, any given day, that we have no control over as coaches. Out of our control completely.
Officials.
Officials. What else?
Environment.
Yeah, the weather.
Injuries.
Injuries. What else?
Crowd.
The crowd.
Yeah, parents.
And parents. Good one. Okay, I could go on and on and on. As coaches, out of those 5 things we've just said, how many of them do you hear from your players? A lot of them. You hear complaints about those 5 things. As coaches, let's not have an ear for those, because those are things that are out of our control. So what we have to do as coaches is start to reframe our players. Think about what you can control. Control the controllables. Your attitude, how much control do they have over their attitude? 100%.
100%.
How much control do they have over their effort? 100%. How much control do they have over how much they learn from their opponents and learn from other players? 100%. How much control do they have over how they handle a mistake? 100%. I don't know about you, but 100% seems like much better odds to me. That's what we can do as coaches. So let's talk about this. Your team tends to play tentatively, lets the opponent drive the action. What can you do? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to break you up. Here's what I want you to do as a group. You're going to get into a group of 4, and I don't want you to be with someone that coaches the same sport than you do. I'd like you to get with a group of different sports, okay? And I want you to talk about when your team in your sport is not being aggressive, what can you do as a coach to help encourage this? So everybody would get up, they'd move around the room. Sometimes it doesn't work out if you need to have 2 people from the same sport, but I like to do this one with different sport examples so that they can learn from each other. I would walk around the room while they're discussing. I might take one answer from each group to share. What would you do? How would you handle this? And then every answer that I get, I would connect it back in some way to the principle of mastery. So great example. You're helping those athletes think about what they can control. I like that example from swimming. I like that example. And I try to get, when I ask for the audience back to give me answers, I try to encourage them. Like if someone said, okay, in soccer, I coach soccer, this is what I would do. The next person I would call, okay, let's get a different example other than soccer. Okay, let's get a different example other than football. So you get a whole group of different coaches giving different sports. If you're in a sports-specific workshop, which happens a lot too, if let's say you're in a baseball workshop, and they would say, well, okay, my team's tentative, they're not really hustling through to first base. I would say, okay, give me another scenario in the game besides just running to first base. So anything you can do to pull out examples out of your audience that aren't all the same just makes your workshop that much better. So that is something that anytime you do grouping, You can group by age, you can group by ability, you can group by sport, you can group by scenario in the game, attack and defense, whatever you want to do. But the more creative you can be, the better. So let's talk about some tools here. Here's some takeaways from the ELM Tree of Mastery. Assertive, aggressive play comes when there's no fear of mistakes. Fear of mistakes is the #1 impediment to peak performance. All as coaches, we want our players to perform. So letting them relax and know that when they make a mistake, they're not going to be yanked out of the game right away like I was. They're going to be encouraged to stay in there and try something new, try something different. Focusing on the effort is the key. So in your books, I'd love to show you where to find some more tools. Page 23 has the mistake ritual I just talked about. One of my other favorite tools is called effort goals. And I'd love for everyone right now, if you don't mind, if you could turn to page 25. Page 25 talks about goals. The reason that I love this is because it was a huge wake-up call for me as a coach, because I did a lot of goal setting. I started out coaching high school lacrosse. I had my girls every season, the beginning of the season, set goals. And I'm sure, how many of you have your team set goals as well? All right, I'm going to put you through a real quick exercise of questioning here. If you look at the top of page 25, there are 5 different sport examples of goals. Most of us have outcome goals that they would like our team to achieve. For example, what is the baseball outcome goal? Can somebody read that out loud for me? If you have your book. If you don't have your book, that's okay. Anybody have your book? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, beat the throw. Yeah, I don't know why Steve is doing that. I don't know why. Beat the throw to first base. Yes. The basketball outcome.
Get the rebound.
Get the rebound. Lacrosse, get possession of the ball. Thank you. Football, make the tackle. These are all the skills as coaches we want the kids to learn. Start with the outcome goal. That's great. Now, once you have that goal in mind, go back and think, what is the effort that's required to accomplish that goal? So, for example, basketball, I want them to get the rebound. I want them to get the rebound. I want them to get the rebound every single time. Can every player on my court get the rebound every single time?
No.
No. I mistakenly used to encourage my team to, guys, you know what? We're not winning on the scoreboard here. We're losing. I want you guys to go out and get every rebound. I thought that was encouraging because I thought, okay, I'm not going to let them focus on shooting. We're probably not going to win this game. I'm going to have them just focus on rebounds. Well, first time down the court, they were getting crushed. They weren't getting the rebound. So guess what they're thinking? I failed again. Now I can't shoot and I can't get the rebound. So instead of that, if I focused on the effort take, what do you have to do to get in position to get a rebound? Anybody that knows basketball, what do you have to do?
Move your feet.
Move your feet. Get in position. Box out. Now, if I told my players, what I'm going to be watching you for here is how many of you are getting down there and boxing out. I want to see the position. Somebody's showing me position to box out. They're showing me they're in the spot. Now, make contact after the shot and box out. Can every single player on my team box out?
I hope so.
Yes. It's not contingent upon the outcome of success. They might not get the rebound. However, the more they box out correctly, increases the chances, increases the likelihood that they are going to get the rebound. So you can see the difference between outcome goals and effort goals. For baseball, the outcome goal is to beat the throw to first. The effort taken to get there, run hard through first base. Can every single player beat the throw to first base? No. But every single player run hard through first base on a ground ball. Yes. So think of a goal, outcome you want. Think of a skill that they can all do. It's not contingent upon the outcome, and then you have some effort goals. So what I'd like you to do just for 30 seconds in your sport, I want you to think of an outcome goal, a skill that you want them to have, but then write the effort goal that they're going to take. So take a minute, jot that down somewhere in the margin of your book for your sport. One that's not mentioned on page 25. All right. So I would have the room share, a couple different examples of that. All right, so now we are ready to move on to principle number 3. And that's it. Okay, so that took a little bit longer because I stopped to talk to you in between there too. But that is pretty much it for the ELM Tree of Mastery. You know, the ideas, the big ones that we hit, effort, learning, it's okay to make mistakes. We talked about mistake ritual. There was a lot of content in there. But for the most part, that section should only take about 15 minutes to go through in your workshop. Now, I like to do a lot of discussion, a lot of talking, so that does take some more time. So this principle for me would probably take about 20 minutes, and I would love it. For you, the more discussion-based you can make it, the better. Again, what I loved about Carol Dweck's first video was she said, Some of us think it's obvious. It's not obvious to the players that you value practice and you value effort. Some players think that winning is just because you're better than the other team. And we say winning is not just because you're better than the other team. Winning is the result of the process. And that's the mindset, the process of hard work, the process of effort, the process of being coached. Winning is at the end of that. And it requires the hard work, the effort, and the coaching. Before I give you a couple more examples, I have a few different things that other trainers do that I've done too also that work really well. What are some comments and thoughts that you have about Elm Tree of Mastery? What are some stories you have? What are some exercises you liked or didn't like or connect to or would like to try? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm just going to pause.
I'll try this and see if, can you hear me?
I can. Yep. Yep.
Can you hear me, Kelly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I don't know why my computer is causing problems, but when we talked about the flush and getting rid of the, the mistake, flushing the mistake.
Yep.
Yep. I'm thinking of the situation where a player or an athlete makes multiple mistakes in a short period of time, and I haven't actually used the flush method, but what I try to use when I see a player in a short period of time make multiple mistakes is a strategy where I ask them to just play simple, and instead of trying to make a pass that is that $1 million pass that beats everybody, just to pass it to someone who's simply 10 yards away and begin to make multiple passes that are simple and slowly build the confidence back up. Mm-hmm. And so is there a strategy that we use that addresses that kind of thing, building confidence back up when a player clearly is going down the wrong way after multiple mistakes?
Mm-hmm. There's one, and I don't know if it's. Sorry. I don't know if it's a good example. It's called moving the goalpost. And let me just. So moving the goalpost is simply that. It's making little wins along the way. So if your player is, if your team is down by 4 goals in soccer and they're getting discouraged. Instead of, really focusing on, okay, we're losing here, let's try to get it back, focus on movement of the ball up the field. So the example in the book is one of the coaches literally moved the goalpost, moved the end line, and said, guys, I'm going to count how many times we get that ball. Your goal is to get it over the 50-yard line. That's it. That's what we want. And we're gonna go out for ice cream if we can get that ball over the 50-yard line 4 times in the next half. Can we do that? Can we try that? So it's making little successes. For example, success to you might be different than success to me. My team that I'm coaching right now, if they can get 3 consecutive passes in a row, that's a win. I'm thrilled. It might be, for your team, it might be 3 shots. Whatever it is, make it small enough that the kids can see measurable progress right away, and that can encourage them. And so, again, one of the things we talk about is positive charting. Sometimes we talked about that in filling the emotional tank, but positive charting is great for effort goals as well. And positive charting is where you're keeping kids accountable for their effort. And it's a stat. One of the things Shane Battier was called was the no stats all-star because he wasn't the highest shooter. He didn't have the greatest percentage of free throws or anything, but every team he was on improved. And they said it's because the effort and the way that he encouraged his teammates to get better. All the effort stats, Shane Battier was all over the place. He had them all. But the outcome stats, he didn't. But he made those around him better by doing it. So I think simple is a great idea. I like that, of saying just keep it simple, just short passes, and that's something that you can keep the kids accountable for. Does that help? Okay. Other questions, stories you have, things you think might be able to weave in to this principle?
Well, for the effort, I've had teams that were really good that tended to coast when they got a lead. So I would do something like no dribble, and they weren't able to dribble. If you dribbled, you came out of the game. and it became a game not to dribble. And they had fun with it, and we called it Notre Dame, so the other team didn't feel bad that we weren't dribbling. And they just really had fun and played hard, and everyone could see that it wasn't like we were trying to run up the score because we weren't dribbling, but they still had to play hard defense. They still had to play hard on offense. They still had to work together as a team, and it's turned out to be a saver for me over the last 30 years when we're crushing people.
I love that. I love it. We're working on the skills. We had, when I was coaching high school lacrosse, we played ultimate frisbee a lot just for fun, just because it was a game everybody could do. And if you know the rules of ultimate frisbee, you can only take 3 steps before you pass the frisbee. So we had to play when we were in the same situation where we were kind of crushing a team by a lot. Instead of saying, okay, everybody, take all the starters out, we kept a lot of the people in, and I would just say ultimate. And if I said ultimate, every player only got 3 steps. And that's it. They had to pass the ball after 3 steps. So, and it's same thing. It made them cut harder. It made them laugh. They were having fun. They were still working, and the other team didn't think they were, they weren't embarrassed that we were, stopping playing. It was actually playing harder, and it helped them more. And all I had to yell was ultimate, and they thought that was like some big fancy play. So thanks for that example. Let me share for you a couple other things that I've seen done really well. The one that I did with the Alan and me head-to-head, that's Ruben's exercise. He likes to do that, and it's really hard to explain it without seeing it. He does it really well. And Ruben's kind of a small guy, so he'll pick like the biggest guy in the room, and he'll do some type of a exercise like that. And he'll actually say, okay, like he's done it with wrestling before. He got somebody up, and they said, yeah, I'm a wrestler. And he's like, all right, on the count of 3, we're going to go, and can you get me out of this circle? And he'll just say, he'll go 1, 2, and then he'll stop. I'll be like, wait a minute, let's think about this here. And then he'll talk about how much control do I have, how much control do you have. So it's just a fun exercise to do. The other one is Leslie Brady is one of our trainers down in DC, and this is just a little thing. I thought it was cool. She wrote the word attitude on the board, and you guys might have known this. I never saw this before. I thought it was so cool. She wrote the word attitude on like a whiteboard, and then she said, okay, here we're going to practice some math. And she does this with the athletes as well, and she has them put the number of the letter that corresponds to the alphabet next to each one. So an A is 1, a B is 2, a C is 3, all the way down. And she has them, okay, A, what number is A? And they'll say 1. What number is T? And the kids will go like A, B, C, D, E, F, G all the way through, and T is 20. And then, and she'll go all the way through. When you add up all the numbers of the word attitude, it equals 100. Which is cool for them to see. So she'll say, how much of the game is contingent upon your skills? And she'll write the word skills, and skills is only worth like 35 or whatever. How much of it is worth attitude? How much of your success is attributed to your attitude? 100%. And I thought I never saw that before. I thought that was kind of cool. Something else she uses. Another one is she'll have people write down a skill that they have, or write down a goal. That's what it is. Write down a goal for themselves. Okay, think of a goal that you want to do by the end of the season as coaches or as players. So they'll write a goal on a sticky note, and she'll say, okay, now when you've written down your goal, I want you to go over somewhere in this room, and I want you to post it as high as you can on that wall. So she'll have all the coaches go over, and they'll post it as high on the wall as they can. So then she'll talk about this. Okay, let's hear some goals, and she'll walk around and she'll say some goals. And then she'll say, okay, now what I want you to do is go back up, and I want you to put it higher. And everybody will go, and they won't even question. They'll take it off. Now they'll really jump, and they'll stick it higher. And she talks about stretch goals and just right goals. That's another tool in here. How all of you, I asked you to put it as high as you can, and then I asked you to go back and put it higher. Every one of you could do it higher. Why? Because you put in a little more effort. And she always uses that. She's got a lot of these little phrases a lot of coaches use, and she says, think about that. The only difference between triumph and try is a little oomph. That's one of her lines that she likes to say. Give it a little oomph. Put it up a little higher. So that's one, and she talks about stretch goals that, again, research has shown that players and people actually like to be pushed a little bit farther. And this is another thing that Carol Dweck has studied. She's given puzzles to kids, and this is a great study if you haven't seen this. She had 2 groups of kids, and she told one group they were smart, and that's why they were in this room. She told the other group they worked hard, and that's why they were put in this room, and she had them do puzzles that were unsolvable, and then she timed how long it took them to give up. And the kids that were told they were smart gave up twice as fast as the kids that were just told they worked hard. So think about that in terms of believing in your players. If the players believe you think they work hard, they're going to work harder. So I think that's just so cool. The other thing she did was she gave them puzzles and then said, okay, now that you've struggled with this puzzle for such a long time, the next time I want you to go into a room and you're going to choose one of 3 puzzles. Puzzle number 1 is just as hard as the one you just had. Puzzle number 2 is easier. Puzzle number 3 is harder. So they've already struggled for about 10 or 15 minutes trying to work on this. When the kids went back, 90% of the kids, when they went back to choose a puzzle for the next round, they chose the harder one. 90% of them. So they like to be stretched. They like to be pushed a little bit. Kids are inherently want to be challenged, as long as they know it's just right for them. So that's another one. What were some others? Oh, just some Brad Stevens. I love Brad Stevens. He says on his team, he encourages the players to be great at things that have nothing to do with talent. That's what I want you to think about. So they make lists of all the things that you can be great. You can be a great athlete, and these have nothing to do with your talent. So that's something that he really talks about, which I love too. All right, I think for now I'm going to stop because we only have a couple minutes left. Do you guys have any other questions for me, or questions about the principal, or something to share? I must be that thorough. That's really unbelievable. All the other calls are like going like 10 minutes past the hour. You guys are all good.
If at first you don't succeed, do it the way your coach told you to.
There you go. I always say, if at first you don't succeed, you should have listened to Mom more. That's what you really missed. Yeah, but I think that's a good point. When Carol Dweck said that in front of 200 of us, PCA people, if at first you don't succeed, and we all said try again, she goes, no, that doesn't work. And we were like, oh, okay. She was this tiny little frail, mousy kind of woman, and she told us all, and we all stopped in our tracks, like, really? That doesn't work? No, it's not purposeful. You don't have a goal. You haven't been coached. You can't just keep trying. You try the same thing. You do what you've always done. You're going to get what you've always got. You got to do something different. So I thought that was really purposeful for me. Anyway, well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you taking the time. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm actually going to, since Monday's a holiday, I'm going to post the next week's questions and everything. I'm going to do it probably on Tuesday morning instead of Monday.
So we have till Monday night to turn in our...
You do, absolutely. Or you fail right away. By all means. And if you missed any from weeks before, you can always go back and fill them in. But honestly, the reason that I do the Sunday night thing is just because people like pressure and deadlines, and it keeps you accountable. Because if you're anything like me and you didn't have a deadline, you'd wait till the end of the course and then try to do them all at once. So, yeah, I have people say, like, I'm so sorry, I got it in at 12:01. Is that okay? I'm like, you're going to fail. Sorry. No, I just really like to keep people accountable for things. It helps to keep things on track. But a lot of people are away this weekend, so you have till Monday night, Lindsay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. No problem. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. And your answers have been great. If you don't get a chance to, if you haven't yet, go back through and read other people's posts because it's really cool. This is where you're going to get your ideas for your workshops. This is where you're going to go back in the files and go, oh, yeah, I remember so-and-so was talking about that football example. That's right. Here we go. Let me share this with you. So I encourage you highly to go back and look, and feel free to comment on them. If something connects with you or you like something somebody said, tell them. Fill their tanks. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.